Hello, I'm Josh Scott. Welcome to the second episode of Opinionated. Thank you all for coming on and listening and subscribing and liking wherever, on whatever platform you use to listen to your podcast and music and on social media. I appreciate it. Just some housekeeping things. Yes, my sound quality is still not going to be the best. You might hear a sibling in the background or an animal. Until I get everything set up completely, please forgive me and stay patient. Working on some background music for the intro. Very interesting for things coming up. I have made a Patreon for anyone that would like to support the podcast with money. And listen, I know times are tough. If you can't support the podcast with money, even $1 a month, I'm not fussing on you. I totally understand your prayers and thanks and sharing the word about this podcast means the world to me just as much as cash does. But cash would get me things upgraded faster. So for just $1 a month, you can become a Patreon supporter and ask one question a month that I'll read and answer on the show. And there are other tiers as well. The way to find that would be www.patreon.com/overopinionated, no spaces, and over is a capital O, and then overopinionated 679. So it'd be www.patreon.com/overopinionated 679. Over is capitalized with an O. With all that being said, let's get to the show. Well, you take your little girl to the park, your little daughter, granddaughter, sister. You want to have a good day, so you get her some ice cream. You play on the merry-go-round, and you get her a balloon. Tie it to her wrist. Hopefully it doesn't flow off, because if it does, you're going to have to get a crying little girl a new balloon, because you don't want her to be heartbroken. Now it flies off into the distance as you're getting a new balloon. And then you see another balloon in the sky from our best friends, Communist China. Oh man. If you're an American with a pulse, you gotta be mad at this. So yeah, you have to be mad at this. And once again, I'll be reading some still headlines. And please remember, I'm not a great reader. And I struggle pronouncing some words, especially names in places. And I will mispronounce a few words along the way. But yes, you've got to be mad at this. So China has this balloon that they claim was a civilian balloon for meteorologist reasons, for whoever. And it was not maneuverable. I just have my doubts. I don't trust anything China does. Remember, this is the same China that made women have forced abortions if they had more than one kid. This is the same China that sets up a social credit system. This is the same China that puts Muslim Uyghurs in re-education and work camps and essentially concentration camps. This is the same China that allows people to work for slave wages in sweatshops. China is awful. They are not our friends. They're advancing in the South China Sea. They're aggressive. They're authoritarian. They believe in the party. You must be a member of the party just about in China if you want to have a good life. It is forced that there's a one party controlled state. And we're in trade wars with China. But they're an economic powerhouse and they have roots in Africa. And very scary, scary stuff. But I'm going to read to you today an article from um, the Daily Mail, from a British publication newspaper. Here we go. Inside the Montana nuclear doomsday base, under the Chinese balloon housing enough missiles to destroy the planet, and was put on alert during the Cuban Missile Crisis. That was the headline. Montana is famed for its empty plains, wild river canyons, and its statue as home to one of the nation's three publicly publicly known large-scale nuclear missile silos. So when a suspected Chinese spy balloon was spotted loitering in the air of the big sky state, it was not long before analysis suggested its most likely target. An Air Force base which has been dubbed America's doomsday base. Montana plays a vital national security role by housing nuclear missile silos at the base. State Senator Steve Daines wrote a letter to the Pentagon raising the alarm Thursday. Its location in the west of the country, meant to be an air base, was marked out in the 1950s as an ideal spot to base missiles trained on the Soviet Union. Today, the U.S. Air Force maintains 150 Minuteman missiles across 13,800 square miles of central Montana, making it the biggest complex for nuclear weapons in the Western Hemisphere. We are guardians of doomsday, wrote a commander in 2013. That isn't an exaggeration. It's one of the three bases that together house the country's arsenal of 400 Minuteman missiles. The silo in Montana are run by the 341st Missile Wing, whose mission is to prove ethical combat capability by delivering long-range precision nuclear strikes within a moment's notice. The closest it has come to doing so was during the Cuban Missile Crisis, when an American U-2 surveillance plane spotted Soviet military personnel deploying medium and intermediate range missiles throughout Cuba. In 1962, President John F. Kennedy needed to respond. He imposed a naval blockade of the island and ordered Montana Minuteman missiles to be put on alert. But in fact, so knew the engineers had only just finished building the launch control facilities. No one was entirely sure if the system would work properly. So even the first Minuteman was brought to alert on October 27, 1962. A day later, the Soviet leader Khrushchev calmed down the order that the Soviet missiles were to be removed from Cuba. Today, the missiles have been upgraded to their third incarnation, all watched by over 3,300 military personnel and 600 civilians. Each missile within 60 feet of length and weighs at almost 80,000 pounds with a range mile of 87,000 miles. If the launch order comes, it would race into air from the silo in less than 4 seconds, climbing 70 miles above the Earth before reaching its target on the side of the planet in 25 minutes before unleashing 27 times the explosive power that killed 400,000 people in Hiroshima. For now, defense officials are playing down the idea that the high altitude balloon could be gathering important information, but it has already triggered diplomatic repercussions. On Friday morning, Anthony Blinken postponed his planned trip to China, where he was expected to meet the country's leader. Although the U.S. prepared fighter jets, including F-22s, to shoot down the intruder, the Pentagon immediately decided against intervening, as it could create debris field large enough to endanger people below. However, a defense official told the Associated Press it was heading over the Montana mission field, but the U.S. has asserted that it had only limited value in terms of providing intelligence. China could obtain other technologies such as spy satellites. Republican leaders and former President Donald Trump have led calls for the balloon to be shot down. Canada was also monitoring a potential second incident on Friday as officials worked to determine whether a separate sighting was the same balloon. Former Defense Secretary Mark Spencer, who served under Donald Trump, accused China of bizarre acts. He told CNN that the U.S. should bring it down so that it can capture the equipment and understand exactly what they are doing. They are taking pictures. Are they interpreting signals? Following that, I would definitely shoot it down, providing that there's no risk to people on the ground, said in a manner of great concern that the balloon was flying close to the missiles and strategic bomber base. U.S. Senator Marco Rubio, the top Republican on the Senate Intelligence Committee, said the balloon was alarming but not surprising. The level of espionage aimed at our country by Beijing has grown dramatically more intense and bizarre over the last 5 years, Rubio said on Twitter. So yeah, that is very concerning. Um, and that is just one article I'm going to read you about. But this is what bothers me about this. Okay, so this spy missile that China claims is for meteorological purposes, for weather uh, watching, is from a private citizen. It flies around Japan, up the Aleutian Islands in Alaska, and then which is the United States, back into Canada, and then back into the mainland United States. The Pentagon told Biden not to shoot it down. The military advised him not to shoot it down. Listen, Alaska is it's a huge state land-wise, but it's very depopulated. I'm not saying nobody lives there, but you're telling me that you can't shoot this down over the frozen tundra of Alaska, over a very depopulated place where the risk level is very low for human life? Man, that is such a missed opportunity. Montana is a very depopulated state. We can't shoot it down right then and there before it gets to our nuclear missile silo. Listen, I understand satellites exist. I understand China gets a lot of information from TikTok and our cell phones. I understand that. Why take the chance? What is this technology? We don't know. What are they trying to find out? I don't know. But I don't want a Chinese balloon, which I'm 100% or 99.9% sure this is a spy balloon. It's for sure not a uh, balloon by a private citizen for meteorological purposes. This is from China. I think this is a message from China saying, Biden, you're weak. Stand up and do something. So what? You shoot the balloon down in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of the Carolinas. Woohoo! It gathered. It had so much information that it could gather. You can't. So you won't shoot this thing down in Alaska. Okay. I understand not wanting to go into Canada and shoot it down. We all know how Canada's Canada. They're not going to shoot it down. Montana doesn't have a lot of stuff. It doesn't have a ton of people. It has some people, but not a lot. You're telling me you just can't shoot it down over the frozen tundra of Alaska? You're telling me you can't shoot it down over a mountain in Montana? Are you afraid of debris going to land on a deer and kill it? It's so stupid. So completely stupid. There's always chances. There's always chances. But you're the President of the United States. The Pentagon can inform you what to do. This is just such weak will by Joe Biden. How much more weaker can you be than letting a spy balloon or anything from communist China enter U.S. airspace without shooting that thing down? This is a failure of leadership. He failed us in Afghanistan when we put lives on the line, billions of dollars on the line to help out this country and to form a government which might not have been perfect but was working when we were there and had a small crew there compared to what we were before. You let the Taliban take over in it within what, 5 days? Less than that, they take over it. Oh man, you let that happen. Then we see China. Oh, then we see Russia go into Ukraine. We see China get more aggressive toward Taiwan, which that's a whole other history. After the Chinese Civil War, you had the nationalists and the communists won out and pushed the nationalists inside this island called Taiwan. So Taiwan claims to be the real China, and the communists claim to be the real China. But in essence, Taiwan is an independent country, and everything but name and practice, they might still call themselves China, but they act as a de facto state. China wants that back for national pride, for everything, but they have a crap ton of computer chips that would threaten United States global and military interest if China got them. And the Chinese already saw what we did in Afghanistan, just giving the Taliban Afghanistan. And we're friendly with Taiwan, but we have that strategic ambiguity that says we're not going to recognize Taiwan's independence, but we're also saying you might want to think twice about doing this, China. This is a failure. I'm not the president. I wasn't elected commander-in-chief. I know for sure I'm not letting that balloon get into Missouri and over heavily populated areas. And as soon as I know about it, as soon as I can safely assess the people on the ground, a vast majority of them are not going to get hurt. There's always going to be chances when you're commander-in-chief. You got to be willing to pull that trigger. I don't want anyone to get hurt. But when it's over Alaska, over some of that frozen tundra, you shoot it down. You get people to come get the debris. This is just stupid. So stupid. How stupid can our leaders be? Listen, am I an expert? No. But this is common sense. What could they be doing having that balloon in the air? Just gathering information about how the balloon is spying on us? I don't care if they didn't learn one thing. China did learn something, and it's that Joe Biden will let a balloon go all the way off the coast of Carolina, through Alaska, through Canada, back into America, and then as it starts to go off the coast of America, then shoot it down. China knows that Biden will compromise U.S. airspace. China wouldn't even care about the loss of life, the vast majority of them. If it wasn't strategic place or anything, they would have shot that down in an instant. You think they care about their people? They don't care. They're awful to their people. These are the same people that knew about a certain disease before it went viral and kept it a secret as long as possible and locked people in their homes. This is an authoritative state. And I'm not going on to conspiracy theories about that disease and if, the Wuhan thing, they made it or not, or maybe not made it, but released it. I'm not saying that. I don't know how it came about. But I know that China knew before we knew and didn't tell the global community. And then it affected tons of people and tons of people died everywhere because China didn't want to tell the global community for whatever reason. This should make you mad. This should make you mad as an American. And I'm not saying Trump was great on foreign policy. Okay? I'm not a full-on war hawk, and I'm not a full-on isolationist. I think you have two extremes. You have the extreme that wants full-on war hawkishness, everybody everywhere, and then you have the extreme that says nobody anywhere. But when you have the size of the military that we have, and you have the liberal Enlightenment ideas, and you have a democracy and a republic and a freedom that people don't have, sometimes I do believe it's your moral obligation, especially if you get involved in it and bite off more than you can chew. You don't just get to leave like we did in Afghanistan. You might say, well, we were there over 20 years. Well, we decided to get in there. If you get in there, you see it out. You don't let the Taliban destroy all your hard work and take back over the country. This is insane, guys. This is insane. There should not be Chinese spy balloons or whatever, Chinese suspected spy balloons. Or there should not be Chinese balloons above the United States or anywhere in North and South America. I would go Monroe Doctrine on this. I wouldn't pick a fight with countries and start, a little skirmish here or there. I'd say, listen, when it gets over an area where it's very little populated, a mountain range or a big body of water, shoot it down, or we're going to. There's a site of a spy balloon in South America. I would tell these countries, shoot it down when it's over a sparsely populated area on a mountain, or something like that. Shoot it down there, or we're going to. And I'd probably even tell Canada that. I know that you're going to say, well, that might hurt trade relations and this and that. This is bigger than that. And you give them the opportunity. But for the love of God, do not let this ship go over our nuclear sites. Do not let this ship go over the entire continental United States until it is starting to leave off the coast of Carolina, and then you shoot it down. How stupid and pathetic and weak-willed do you have to be? And it's obvious I'm conservative. It's obvious I'm Republican. But if Trump did this, I'm not going to bend over backwards. Trump was not a political savior. He was better than this. I'm not saying that we have to have Trump back. Myself, I'm personally leaning toward DeSantis. And I'm not saying Trump was perfect, because he wasn't, and he wasn't when it comes to foreign policy. But Joe Biden failed America by letting that stupid spy balloon go all the way across us. And I'm like 99.9% sure that these Chinese are getting the data. You might say, Josh, you're being conspiracy theorist. I'm not trying to be. I hate conspiracies. I hate it. I reject it. I hate them. This is so obvious. This is... I don't know, guys. This is beyond stupid. And I'm not saying it's Armageddon and the sky is falling and this is the worst days America's ever seen. That's not true. But it scares the crap out of me that Joe Biden is so weak willed that he can't look his Pentagon in the eye and say, listen, when it's over a mountain range in Alaska where hardly nobody lives and it's just snow and ice, shoot it down. Be a man. Do the job you were elected to do. But that's my tirade. I'm going on to the New York Post. Want to know about the suspected Chinese spy balloon flying over the United States? Is the headline. The U.S. military was closely tracking a huge high-altitude balloon from China as it sailed across the country on Friday, sparking a spy saga that led the Secretary of State Anthony Blinken absurdly postponing a high-risk Beijing trip. The the movable balloon, basically, was first spotted Tuesday, has already traveled over sensitive military sites and is expected to remain in America airspace for several more days, U.S. officials say, while China tried to claim the balloon was just a weather balloon for an airship that had blown off course. The Pentagon was quickly to reject that claim, dealing a new blow to the already strenuous relationships between Washington and Beijing. The discovery over the U.S. in recent days is a Chinese high-altitude balloon that is flying over sensitive sites to collect information. U.S. officials have said the balloon is movable, paraphrasing, is capable of changing course. Air Force Brigadier General Patrick Riley released at a Pentagon press briefing on Friday. The movable Chinese balloon have already been spotted over sensitive areas in Montana. U.S. officials said he wouldn't say precisely how the balloon was powered or who in China was controlling its flight pattern, but the balloon has a payload of surveillance equipment hanging from it, but it was not evident of any nuclear radioactive contingents, Riley added. The balloon has moved eastward and was over central United States as of mid-Friday, Pentagon officials said. Moments later, Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas tweeted that the balloon was over northwest Kansas. Other sightings of the balloon was reported across the state of Missouri Friday evening, beginning in Kansas City metro area and continuing through the city of Washington, about 50 miles west of St. Louis. The balloon was previously tracked over the Alaskan Aleutian Islands and the northwest Canadian territory. On Thursday, the balloon was spotted over the state of Montana, which is the home of one of America's free nuclear silos filled at an Air Force base. A U.S. official said the flight was likely carried the balloon over a number of sensitive sites, but did not elaborate further. As of Friday afternoon, the balloon was at a high altitude of 60,000 feet, well above the limit for commercial air travel. The object does not present a military or physical threat to people on the ground, Riley said. U.S. defense officials specify the exact size of the huge balloon, but have said it is large enough that despite the high altitude, it can be seen from the ground with a naked eye. The public certainty has the ability to look up in the sky and see where the balloon is, Riley said after declining to provide ongoing updates on the exact location. Why hasn't the U.S. shot it down? The U.S. military opted not to shoot down the balloon because of the safety risk of people on the ground, given the size of the payload or incidental debris, official says. A senior defense official said the U.S. had scrambled fighter jets, including F-22s, to shoot it down if ordered. But President Biden accepted the Pentagon's recommendations to let the balloon be. On Friday, Riley declined to rule out shooting the balloon, which we know now we did, but way too late. We should have shot it over Alaska. It's just such bullcrap. Such bullcrap. We could have shot that thing down over Alaska. What has China said? China initially said the balloon was a civilian airship used mainly for meteorological research that had strayed into U.S. Airspace after being blown off course. U.S. officials, however, say that they have a very high confidence that the balloon was flown over America to collect information due to its maneuverability. So basically they're saying that the balloon can move, it can kind of move and direct itself, but it's being pushed by the current of the air. But the balloon can move itself, is basically what they were saying. Balloon sightings happen within some frequency, and its January report on undocumented air phenomenon, Pentagon joggings for UFO, the Defense Department noticed 163 of 366, or 44%, could be characterized as balloon or balloon-like entities, though it's unclear where the entities were spotted or they came. While it's not the first time a foreign spy balloon has floated through American airspace, there are several reasons why officials say this one stands out. First, timing of the balloon's flight is curious, as one State Department official noticed this is the first time it's happened on the eve of a planned Secretary of State visit to China. It's also spotted the same week the U.S. confirmed a deal to increase its military presence in the Philippines, placing pressure on neighboring China and bringing U.S. forces closer to Taiwan. What we don't know about the balloon, aside from there is a surveillance capability underneath the balloon, it's unclear exactly what the object can do and is doing. A senior defense official claimed Thursday it is unlikely the balloon has any better data collection ability than a Chinese satellite, leaving opening questions of why was it sent across the Pacific theater. Shouldn't matter. That's my comment. It shouldn't matter. Shoot the darn thing down in Alaska. However, other experts have said the balloon could be carrying a camera to get closer look at a sensitive U.S. military locations, or seniors to pick up encrypted communications or other technologies or other intelligence. We shouldn't let this thing be floating above our field or really over the U.S. in general, Tom Cario said, director of Missile Defense Protection at the Center of Strategic and International Studies, told National Public Radio. It's hard for me to believe that if we're going to put a balloon over China and they had the capacity to do so, it's hard for me to believe that if we were putting a balloon over China and they held the capacity to take it down, they would not do so. Exactly right. We would, if we did this to China, they've taken it down like that. They don't care if it kills anyone. They don't care if it hurts any property or hurts anybody. We're a good country, so we do care. I'm not saying we're a perfect country, but we are a good country, so we do care. That's not what I'm mad about. I'm not mad if it's going through a high populated area and you say, let's wait a little bit and we'll shoot it down then. That's not what makes me mad. It makes me mad that it went through Montana, and it makes me mad for it went through Alaska, and we can't shoot it down over the mountains. Stupid. Do you just want to get? Do you just want to learn more about the balloon? Maybe. I don't know. Listen, I'm not in the Pentagon. I'm not in the Oval Office, but I do know you shoot things down. You can shoot it down over a vastly sparse, over a low populated area, over a mountain in Alaska, in the snow. Go send the military, pick up the pieces, learn what we can from it. So, it just makes us look weak. That's all it does. It makes us look so weak, and it should. It should make us look weak that we let it get to Alaska, into Canada, back into America in Montana, go all the way down Missouri, go into the Carolinas, and leave and start leaving in the Atlantic Ocean, and we shoot it down in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast. I'm glad we eventually shot it down, and praises to the pilots that shot it down. Y'all guys are great. I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at our failed president. Oh, one more article. Just a small one. U.S. downs Chinese balloon drawing a threat from China. ABC News. Washington, it's a place. And then it has a little line doing the story. The U.S. military on Saturday shot down a suspected Chinese spy balloon off the Carolina coast after it traveled through sensitive military sites across North America. China insisted the flyover was an accident involving a civilian aircraft and threatened repercussions. They're threatening repercussions. Okay. President Joe Biden insisted that the order he wanted the balloon down even earlier on Wednesday. Period. Okay, my comment. Then do it. Be a man and do it. You're the President of the United States. You're the Commander-in-Chief. You can take advice. I'm saying you listen to them. But shoot the stupid thing down. Okay, starting back with the article. He was advised that the best time for the operation would be when it was over water, U.S. officials said. Military officials determined that bringing it down over land of an altitude of 600 feet would pose an undue risk to people on the ground. In the middle of nowhere in Alaska? Come on. I mean, I understand in St. Louis, but not in Alaska. Not when it's over a unvastly populated area in Alaska. China responded that it's reserved the right to take further actions and criticized the U.S. for obvious overreactions and serious violation of international peace. Okay, this is great. Okay, let me read this sentence to you. China responded that it reserves the right to take further action and criticizes the United States for obvious overreaction and a serious violation of international peace. This is a joke. This is such a joke, and it makes me so mad. And China knows it's a joke. They know it's a joke. They know we had the right to shoot this thing down, and we should have shot it down earlier than what we did. But they're giving themselves an excuse to act more aggressively. That's all this is. That's all this is. They had it all planned out, obviously. An overreaction? They flew a supposed spy balloon, like 99.9% sure it's a spy balloon, over Japan, through the Aleutian Islands in Alaska, into Canada, into Montana. And then starting to exit and leave the United States. It was still in the United States waters, actually. When we shot down, it landed in U.S. waters. It was still in U.S. airspace, actually. So it wasn't international. What a joke. You put. What if the balloon pops and hits and kills somebody over a populated area? You put this in our airspace over our citizenry, and you're calling us overreactive? Screw you, man. Screw your country. Not. I'm talking about the government. Freed and liberate the people. And listen, I'm not calling for a war. I'm saying I want the people to be liberated from this oppressive communist state. This is just 1984 bullcrap. That's all China is. It's 1984 bullcrap. They're a massive collectivism, not a little bit of collective idea. Super duper collective state worship. That's all China is. It just sucks. It pisses me off. It should piss you off as an American that they got away with this just about with a slap on the wrist. They knew we would explode their balloon. They don't care that the balloon was exploded. They don't. Not really. They want more reason to be able to be more aggressive. And what did they get from, I don't know, maybe they just got a little bit closer for pictures than from the satellite. Maybe they got intercept radio waves of confidential. I don't know. I think the big thing is they have a message. Joe Biden is weak in protecting his airspaces. And listen, you can say Trump had some spy balloons off some coasts and stuff. Listen, I'm not trying to be a Donald Trump advocate right here. I will when he's good, and I won't when he's bad. But a balloon did not enter the mainland United States. It might be off the coast here or there. Did not enter mainland United States under President Trump. Did under President Biden. So, goodness golly. What does that mean? We have to elect better people to hold better offices so they can appoint better people that give them better advice. If we're going to beat the Chinese, and hopefully I don't want this to go to a hot military war, because if it does, I'm not scared. I believe in Jesus, and if you don't, that's up to you. Not fuss on you. I'm not scared because I believe in Jesus. Because he said there'd be wars and rumors of wars. I'm not scared of communist China for that reason. But I do respect the ability of harm they could put on us. No one wants a war with China. China doesn't want a war with us, and we don't want a war with China. It could honestly destroy the entire world. Maybe it won't, maybe it doesn't go nuclear, but if it doesn't, then still, it will be a bloodbath beyond all bloodbaths. And we do not want that. But if we're going to beat the Chinese in this new Cold War, we gotta get more aggressive, and defensive and aggressive. That's what it is, and we have to show strength in the world. We can't pull out of Afghanistan. We gotta be stronger when it comes to stuff like Ukraine. I'm not saying the U.S. should have been in Ukraine. I'm not saying that at all. But I think that when Biden pulls out of Afghanistan, it gives Russia more incentive to push into Ukraine. And listen, I'm not a big foreign policy guy. I'm honestly not a super war hawk either. But I'm also not an isolationist, because these international diplomacies, when it comes to conflicts, when it comes to trade, when it comes to everything, they affect me, they affect you, they affect everyone around the globe. The United States is not just a small little country that, if it does something, it just affects the citizens within. It affects the entire world population. And something overseas can affect you in your hometown. It can make the price of gas go up. It can do this and that. So these things matter. Am I an expert in this? No, I'm not. But I know you don't let what happened happen with Joe Biden. But forgive me for my Chinese spy balloon rant. Obviously, I try to keep my composure, but I am emotional too. I don't want to be so over emotional that it clouds my better judgment. But listen, I do try to stay soft spoken. I do try to stay humble. And I'm not trying to, that's not me bragging on myself in any way. Because I know I don't know everything. I may be over opinionated. I might try to back myself up with sources and facts and logic. But I don't know anything. I don't know everything. I'm a fallible human being. But I get emotional sometimes, so I'm going to let that out occasionally. Most of the time, I will be my mild mannered self. So forgive me, I guess, for getting a little emotional. But listen, um, when it came to a presidential election, Michael Dukakis got in trouble for not getting emotional enough. So sometimes maybe it's good to get a little emotional. But I do want to transition from the Chinese space balloon, and I want to give you your Bible verse of the day, because I, I want to do a Bible verse at the end of every podcast, and maybe a little talk about spiritual things. And it's my podcast, so here we go. Good, well, and we want to put God first in everything. So, but if you stay around this long, God bless you. You're amazing. People that only listen 5 minutes, thank you for listening that long. Um, you know, I'm not um, I'm not Ben Shapiro. I don't have I don't have the lighting. I don't have the sound equipment. I don't have the soundproof walls. I'm not Joe Rogan or Cenk Uygur, and I'll never be like Cenk Uygur. But but I don't have, you know what I mean. I don't have the type of equipment yet. But I'll give you what I can, and I'll give you my heart, and I'll try to make a good show with what I have. But I want to give you the Bible verse of the day from the NIV. Is from the first letter of John, not the Gospel, the first letter of John, 4:21. And he has given us this command: anyone who loves God also must love their brother and sister. And I love this verse because there's a lot of people that say they're Christians and they try to be good Christians. They'll say that. And listen, I try to be a Christian, but those people that say that and they just live such a hateful life. There's people on the left that say this. There's people on the right that say this. It doesn't have to be political, or cultural even. People will claim to be good Christians. They'll put on a suit and tie and go to church every Sunday, and they show no love for their brother. They might say they love them, but they won't show it. They won't say. They won't stay after church and talk to them and help them. They won't be sympathetic to them in their time of need. They won't say a prayer for them. They put on a face. And listen, I'm not saying we're perfect. I'm not saying that at every situation, always in life, that we have to we have to go out of our way to do everything for all our friends or loved ones. Listen, there's ups and downs in life. Some days it's a struggle to even get in church, and you're just doing your best. But what I'm talking about is you generally love your fellow neighbor and want to be a good Christian and fellowship with them and love them. You want to see souls saved and won for God. Now you might say, Josh, how do you do that when you just did a 40-minute rant about how you hate the Chinese Communist Party ruling China? Well, you do have to check yourself sometimes and say, God help these people and forgive them, turn them to you. But when I'm saying I hate this, I hate that, or I'm making a case against it, first of all, I never said, when it comes to Chinese people, I feel bad for them. I'm talking about their government, the evil party. It's a one-party state. I hate that government. I hate that system. I hate it. It's oppressive. It's evil. It's wrong. The people inside it that are ruling it, I believe one day will enter to God. But I still think they have an opportunity to turn of their ways and get saved. And run away from that life. Still do. Some of them do. All of them do, actually. They have to open themselves up to the gospel. A lot of them haven't really heard the true gospel. It's not like it's popular over in that part. But pray for those. Pray for your enemies and those who persecute you. So it can be hard. But I'm talking about individual people, not governments. But let us love each other. Now, listen, guys, I am going to try to do a weekly podcast, and I might have an episode extra here or an episode extra there. We'll just go as long we go along. I want to try to release a show every Wednesday. I am pre-recording this. Obviously, it's not a live show, but shows will go up and down. Sometimes randomly, sometimes not randomly, and sometimes you'll get extra shows. Still working on some stuff. I want to do some conversational, you can call them interviews, but more like conversations with local people, good people. Doesn't have to be politics, could be a pastor, just something that is interesting. And the thing with this show is we can talk politics, we can talk government, we can talk Jesus, we can talk movies, we can talk pop culture. It's over opinionated. It's not government opinions, or it's not Jesus opinions. It's over opinionated with Josh Scott. So if you like hearing me ramble, you know, Lord help you. but but yeah, and listen, if you want to be on the show really bad and you have an opinion that is not bad, and well, if you have an opinion you'd like to share in a respectful tone and not use inappropriate language, and listen, I'm not saying that I never say a cuss word that I shouldn't, but we want to try to keep the show as clean as possible. But if you can use good language and you're being respectful, um, you know, give me a holler and maybe we can get you on the show for a little bit. I'm not saying you're going to get a full 15 minutes, but you might get a 5 minute hello and discussion. And you know, you can also do that through Patreon. If you give me $7 a month, you can come on 5 minutes. I'll definitely probably give you more. That's just the limit. Um, and we can talk what you want as long as you're respectful and it's appropriate. And as long as I'm at the size I am now. Now, if I grow to Joe Rogan type levels, I won't be able to do that, obviously. But I'm not too worried about that at the moment. But I want to say to you, you know, go and love your brother. Be vigilant. Read, check your sources. Um, Read things that sometimes you don't agree with, and but be smart what information you're putting into your mind. Be credible. Do your research. Read your Bibles. Eat your vitamins. But and definitely love your neighbor and love Jesus and repent and believe in the gospel. That has been Over Opinionated. It is the 5th. It's currently a Sunday. But this podcast will probably go out a little bit later. God bless every single one of you, and I'll see you soon.